I remember reading a few years ago in a report from the Gartner Group that organisations should be committing somewhere between 5 and 10% of the budget for their projects to creating a robust and authoritative business case to be sure that they understand what it is they're going to be delivering and the reasons why they're going to be delivering it. So in this video, I want to look at how to write an effective project proposal. There are many reasons why we need to create a good project proposal or business case. And first of all, the obvious one is it justifies the decision to go ahead with the project. It makes the arguments clear why the project is of value, and it also sets out the concerns or the costs or the risks associated with the project, and therefore puts a necessary note of caution into the governance process. It's therefore part of our due diligence. It is part of our need for accountability and auditability. A project proposal or business case creates a record of the thought processes that have gone in to creating the decision to go ahead with or possibly to cancel a project. But it's more than that as well. It's also a piece of communication. It's a way of communicating to stakeholders, to team members, what the project is and why we're doing it. Often, the project proposal is also the start of the risk management process. It sets out what the risks, the threats to the project are, and we can build on that by taking those from our business case and putting them into our risk register and managing them actively. And finally, I'd like to mention the fact that, if nothing else, the business case sets out a clear definition for success. I'm a great believer in the importance of benefits management, of understanding what the benefits are of our projects and managing them. And the business case is the first part of that process. It sets out the benefits we expect to have, what success looks like, and therefore we can build our benefits management plan from our project proposal. So the question is, how do we develop an effective project proposal? And we have to start with understanding who our audience is. And I like to think of it as a triangle of, firstly, the decision makers, the people who the proposal, the business case are primarily targeted at, are the people who are going to make the decision, the go or no-go decision on the project. Secondly, are the decision influencers, the people who are going to influence the decision makers. You're giving them the arguments they need to understand the project properly and combine them with their authority to influence the decision makers. And finally, the third corner of the triangle are the implementers, the people who are actually going to deliver the project, the project manager, the sponsor, and the project team. Yes, of course, a whole wide range of stakeholders are also an audience for the project proposal, but if you draw your audience too widely, then when you craft your business case, you're not crafting it for anyone in particular. Think about the triangle of your primary audience when you craft your business case. So what are the steps to creating a business case? I'm going to give you a 6-step process, and the first is to engage with stakeholders to find out what their needs are, what their desires are, what their expectations are, what they want, their preferences, and any concerns they have. The more you understand about your stakeholder group at the beginning, the better you can craft the right project for them and understand how to advocate for that project and balance fairly the different needs and desires of your stakeholders in your project proposal. Second, we document the project. We put together what we think the project's going to be and the case for the project. And this is where the business case needs to overlap with your project definition. You need to be clear on what your goal is, your objectives, the scope of your project, and other key project definitional components. Then, step 3 is to build an investment appraisal. This is the primarily financial element of your evaluation of the project. And you will, of course, have within your organisation standards for evaluating new investments. But if you don't, then you need to think about the scale of the project and the risk of the project and the strategic nature of the project to determine how sophisticated your investment appraisal needs to be. For a simple project, you might simply have, here are the costs, here are the benefits, and here's the point of balance. So you can show that if the benefits outweigh the costs by enough, that's it. You've developed a compelling proposal. But for larger, more complex projects, more strategic nature, you'll need to use more sophisticated investment appraisal methodologies like discounted cash flows, where, for example, the net present value of your investment, the internal rates of return, for example, are being used to evaluate whether the project is good use of the organisation's resources. Out of this, you can draft your business case document. And of course, this is going to include what the project is, your investment appraisal, and also the non-financial elements of the advantages, disadvantages, reasons to do the project, and reasons perhaps to be reserved about not doing the project. Once you have your business case, step 5 is to seek your go, no-go decision. To take the business case to the decision makers, to make sure you present it fairly and clearly so that they are properly informed to answer their questions and to get the decision. And finally, we need to think that once the project gets started, assuming the decision is a positive one to go ahead, you need to maintain your business case. If there are substantial changes to the project as you go through, as the benefits are realised, as the costs are being spent, then you need to update your business case and, if necessary, take it back to the decision makers for a renewed decision. If the business case materially changes, the investment appraisal or other aspects of it change, then the right thing to do is to review the decision. I've talked about the process of producing a business case. Let's have a look at the principal sections, the information your business case needs to include, because that will give detail to the process. And I think of a business case as having 4 primary sections plus a load of appendices. How you balance the information among these sections, how you bring some information from the appendices to the main document, if that's right for your organisation, right for your project, or how you subordinate some information from a section into an appendix, that's a decision that you will need to make. But this is as good a framework as any. And the first section is an executive summary. Often, decision makers will want to get a flavour for what's in the document before they read it. It's a good way to improve retention and effectiveness of reading. Now, some people would say an executive summary is important because decision makers don't have time to read the whole business case, and that may be true in your organisation. But I don't think that it's good governance if decision makers aren't reading all the information that's there. But by using appendices and taking everything that is not crucial to the decision out of the main body, you can still keep your business case rather trim. But the executive summary is vital to help readers to orient to the information you're going to give them. Section 2 needs to be all about the rationale, the problem that the project needs to solve, the context in which you find it, the solution or solutions that you found, and how those solutions compare with one another. Without a good background context section to the business case, less informed, less up-to-date members of the decision-making group can't put the project in context and understand it. So that strategic context is important. It's also, in this section, in the rationale section, if I were writing a business case, that I'd be most likely to state the goal and the objectives of my project and possibly even outline the scope or the options for the scope of the project. Section 3 is where you conduct the analysis. This is the big, meaty section. It's actually where you make the case. And it's worth saying that business cases are used in two different ways. Sometimes they are used as a piece of advocacy to make the case for a project, to propose a project and say why we should do it. But project proposals, business cases, can be less dogmatic. They can set out the case for a number of options or to put forward a number of proposals for decision makers to choose among. And it's certainly this latter approach that I prefer. I think it's better governance to provide your decision makers with genuine choice rather than say, here it is, here's our proposal, take it or leave it. And so our analysis section needs to give them all the information they need to make an informed decision now they've understood the rationale, the context that you put forward. So what are we going to include in our analysis section? Well, certainly you need to include the financial and the non-financial benefits. And some of those non-financial benefits will be quantifiable. For example, you might look in terms of turnover rates or production rates. Some may be very hard to quantify, like morale, enthusiasm, brand recognition, where actual quantification is difficult. I would also argue that in this section you need to talk about benefits realization and how the project team are going to ensure that the benefits you just stated are going to be realized through the life cycle of the project and when they're going to be realized. The when is going to be important if you need to do a sophisticated time-based financial appraisal like a discounted cash flow. You've talked about the benefits, so the next thing to do is to look at the costs. What are all of the financial and non-financial costs of doing the project? And I would certainly here be looking also to put down a financial budget, even if it's only an outline or draft budget, so that those costs can be categorized and the decision makers can see how they might fit into other elements of the organizational budget. I think I'd want also to look at the extent to which those budget items are affordable and how they might be funded. So that kind of realism there will, I think, mark out the savvy organizational business acumen project manager. I don't know quite what the right word is for that, but show that you actually understand the organizational context of the financials of your project. Also in the analysis, it's important to put down the key risks to the project, and give some sort of estimation of their impact and likelihood. Any existing issues that are around that might get in the way of delivering a project, because decision makers need to make their decision in the knowledge of what the problems genuinely are. And associated with that, I'd also think about an impact analysis of how your project, both the process of delivering the project and also the completed project, is going to impact the organisation for good and for ill. Because obviously there are going to be pros and cons on both sides. And then you're going to bring all of that together into two things, I think. First of all, an investment appraisal, the formal financial evaluation of the costs and benefits of the project using whatever methodology is appropriate to your organisation. And finally, a kind of summary that brings together the financial investment appraisal and the non-financial elements against each other. You might include a recommendation in your analysis, or you might put it into Section 4. Section 4 is the business case approval process, and it's worth noting that in some organisations the business case shouldn't have a recommendation because that sets an anchor and therefore creates some form of cognitive bias. But most organisations do want a recommendation in a business case, and of course if you're writing a project proposal which is a piece of advocacy, then this is your proposal. We should do this, these are the costs, these are the benefits. But Section 4 is about the process for making the decision. So therefore, it's going to link into the governance process. It's also going to have some sort of document management or a version control section to it to show how the decisions are recorded, and the business case will be maintained going forward. And then finally, we're going to have some appendices. Appendices contain information that the reader may want to access but doesn't need to access in your judgment. So what sort of things are going to go into our appendices? Well, perhaps the procurement process or the supply options for any materials, any equipment, any people that you're going to need for your project. Something perhaps about the governance of expenditure and how finances are going to be approved and overseen. So that's a key element for many organisations. You might include any relevant strategy or policy or other contextual information, perhaps papers from board meetings or organisational policies and procedures that you refer to, usually in the context setting section of your business case. You will, of course, link to other project documents too. You'll cross-reference, for example, the project definition, maybe any project planning documents that are coming forward. And I think it's vital that the business case alludes to the change control process, because, of course, when you make changes to the project, you are therefore, by default, making changes to the business case. And finally, I like to think about people and include those in my business case or my project proposal. Who is the team that has put together the project proposal, and who are the authorisers and the decision makers, and also what's the project team going to look like and the governance structures around that. So there's a lot to do to build a robust project proposal or business case, but it is a valuable activity. It is vital, and as I say, Gartner have recommended somewhere between 5 and 10% of the project budget should be allocated to creating and maintaining a robust business case. If you do this, you are setting a stake in the ground for good governance for your project, and you are ensuring that the first and most important project decision is made in a rigorous and robust manner. If you've enjoyed this video, please do give us a like, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to learn of new videos as soon as we publish them. Thank you.